I'm going to show you two very short adverts. My question is, which is louder?
This video is sponsored by NordVPN.
This video is sponsored by NordVPN.
Here's the volume of the nice, calm one. The second one, with the shouting, the background noise, the music. If you're measuring volume purely by decibels, then it was lower. But it definitely sounded louder. To explain that, we need to start at the beginning. What does it mean for something to be loud? Let's say a tree falls in the forest. The tree causes the air to move, both by pushing it out of the way, but also by the tree and the things around it vibrating as they deal with all the forces involved. Those vibrations are transferred into the air. The actual air itself is not traveling from the crashing tree to your ears, but rather it's a wave caused by air molecules bumping into each other. And if you're standing nearby, then bits of that wave get funneled by the flappy bit of your ear, the pinna, into your ear canal. The waves get to your eardrum and it vibrates in turn, just a tiny, tiny amount. Behind it, there's the three smallest bones in the human body, the hammer, anvil, and stirrup. They amplify those vibrations through leverage and deliver those vibrations into the cochlea, shaped like a snail shell, which converts it into electrical impulses that get interpreted by the brain. If you ask a physicist, those air movements are sound. Ask a psychologist, and they'll say that until those movements get interpreted by the brain, it's just stuff moving because sound is in your head. It's an experience. If the tree falls in the forest and no one's there to listen, a physicist says there's sound, a psychologist says there isn't. And both of them are correct because they're using the same word to mean different things, which is part of why it takes so long to answer what seems like a simple question. So let's talk about that wave. It's got two important values, the amount of pressure for each peak, the amplitude, and the time between each peak arriving, the frequency. We'll start with the amplitude. Pressure is measured in pascals, and regular air at about sea level has a pressure of somewhere around 100,000 pascals. That's the weight of all the atmosphere above pushing down. Our ears can detect a fluctuation of about 20 micropascals, a whisper in your ear would be about 2 millipascals, and traffic noise about 200 millipascals. And someone screaming at the top of their voice directly into your ear is around 20 pascals, which is well into the sorts of pressure that can cause hearing loss. Okay, as you might have noticed, that's not a particularly useful graph because the differences in scale are enormous, even if we get rid of the ambient pressure at the top. So instead, let's use a logarithmic scale, which means that each block going vertically is 10 times the previous one. That's much clearer. Just remember, this is a 10 times jump in pressure, and so's this, and so's this. That's how decibels work. The minimum that humans can detect, 20 micropascals, is taken as 0 bells. And then each 10 times increase in pressure adds 2 bells, and we generally use tenths of those, so each 10 times increase is another 20 decibels. And I know a load of sound engineers and techies are already in the comments going, no, each 10 times increase is 10 decibels, you fool. And here's reason too why this is so difficult to answer. There are multiple decibel scales because sound engineers talk about intensity, the amount of power transmitted, not the amount of actual pressure on your eardrum. Those two things are proportional. And look, it doesn't matter for this. Just blame mathematicians, okay? The important thing is your brain doesn't interpret 10 times more change in pressure to mean 10 times as loud. Sure, traffic noise feels louder than a whisper, but I don't think many people would guess that the amplitude is 100 times greater. That's why we use decibels. A logarithmic scale matches how we think about sound. Hold that thought. That's amplitude dealt with. Next is frequency, and that's easy to define. It's just the number of peaks per second, or hertz. The human ear can detect roughly from 20 hertz through to 20,000 hertz, although that starts to decrease as people get older. The sound wave is going to be much more complex. Of course, it's usually not transmitting just a single frequency, but let's not get into the maths of that too much. We're particularly sensitive to the range between 2,000 and 5,000 hertz, which means our brains perceive those frequencies as being louder. In 1933, Harvey Fletcher and Wildenay Munson published this, which became known as the Fletcher-Munson curve. They played different sounds at different levels and noted how their test subjects perceived that sound. The curve has been updated and refined over time, and now it's usually called the equal loudness contour. So, if you want this tone and this tone to feel as loud as each other, you need to play the low one, I want to say louder, but that's not right. You need to play the low one with greater amplitude. And of course, science has a measuring system for this too. Audio engineers and broadcast companies came up with LUFS, loudness units full scale. The calculations for this take the loudness contour into account, along with how long the loud sounds last. LUFS are a scientific way to measure how loud something should feel, not how much the air happens to be moving. If you're making a video for YouTube or Netflix or music for Spotify or iTunes, there are guides for you to follow. YouTube asks you to aim for -14 LUFS. The units are kind of arbitrary, it's just a number. If you upload something that's louder than that, they'll just turn the player's volume setting down automatically in the background so people don't suddenly get startled if one video or music track is louder than another. So that means if you're making a movie or a TV show and you want your loud sounds to have impact, you can't turn them up above the limit. You have to turn the dialogue and speech and all the other sounds down. Not too much, that'll also cause problems, but enough that when the big explosion happens, it's noticeable, it's audible. But advertisers don't need or want the nuance, they just want to be heard. They usually want to be as loud as they can be throughout. The European Union specifies -23 LUFS as its target for broadcasters to try and keep adverts and programs at the same loudness. The US has no specific guidelines, but says that broadcasters should try to match the two, although that rule is rarely, if ever, enforced. All of which is to say that the whisper of that first advert, the sound waves had higher amplitude. Your eardrum will have vibrated further back and forth, but it didn't feel as loud. There were more decibels, but fewer LUFS. And these days, it's the LUFS that matter.
Seriously, this NordVPN advert has lower sound pressure
than this one does.
and I'm happy to endorse NordVPN.
Because I keep finding it actually useful.
Some American sites block European visitors entirely
Because they can't bother to deal with the privacy laws over here. Or maybe you want to access content
without your internet provider or your school being able to track which websites you're connecting to. Or maybe you just want to pretend you're in another country so you can watch stuff from there.
Just check the streaming service's terms and conditions first.
NordVPN's magic button lets you pretend you're in one of around 60 countries
On your phone, tablet and computer.
up to 6 devices at a time.
And there's a 30-day money-back guarantee if you want to test it out.
You can go to nordvpn.com/TomScott, click the link in the description.
Or scan the QR code to find the best deal they're currently offering.
My voice is tired. Also, it's really hot out here.